Hello VC, Jacob here, new sounds and old, coming to you from Denmark. Happy New Year. New Year means new vinyl tag, and I thought that I'd give you my choices. Big thank you to Rob Walker for once again providing us with some questions for us to answer, and thank you, Rob, for only doing 20 questions. I think that is a sufficient amount of questions. I have them down here on my tablet down here, so I'm going to look down here to see what the questions are. Otherwise, let's just get into it. Um, First question is favorite new album of 2022. Now, I didn't get around to do a favorite albums of 2022 video, so I'm going to be showing some new stuff from last year a lot in this video, and show you some of the ones that I like the best. But my favorite one is this one. This is Belgian singer and rapper Stromae and his album called Multitude. I guess it would be called in French, or Multitude. The first album from Stromae in 9 years. He made it big just around 2010, 9, 10, with his first album, Cheese, and some years went, and he made his second album, Racine Carrée, I think the title is. And then it took him 9 years to do this album here. He had some time off where he, among other things, struggled with writer's block. He struggled with mental issues, or mental health issues. There's a song on here called L'Enfer, which is about him feeling really, really crappy and basically wanting or considering taking his own life. And he is very open about the stuff that he went through on this record here. And it is a brilliant album. I hope, with from the bottom of my heart, that he will make it to Denmark. He's been touring North America, I believe, in the autumn and winter of 2022, and he has some dates now already set up for Europe, and hopefully he will make it to Denmark this year. But Stromae Multitude is my favorite album from last year. The last band or solo artist that I saw live, well, the last band that I saw live was actually the Danish radio big band. This is an album they did back in 2010, 14, sorry, featuring spirituals, their renditions of some of the old spirituals, like Joshua Fit, the Battle of Jericho, and Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen. But I saw the Danish National Radio Big Band doing a Christmas concert at the beginning of December, where they played all of the biggest country Christmas songs rather, and they had a brilliant female singer called Veronica Mortensen with them, and it was just an amazing concert. This is one of the best big bands in the world. So the Danish Radio Big Band is the last band that I saw live. Question number 3. The first album was their best. Now, some will say that this is maybe a hot take, but my suggestion for the best album was their first is REM and Murmur. You will argue that, well, what about Automatic for the People? What about Document? What about New Adventures in Hi-Fi? Yes, they are all amazing albums, but if you ask me to put on an REM album, and I can choose whichever album I want, this will be the one that I pick. This is a stellar album from back to front, front to back rather, released in 1993. Come on, it features Catapult, Talk About the Passion, Radio Free Europe, Pilgrimage, Perfect Circle. Ah, oh, man, this is just jingly jangly indie pop, college pop rock indie stuff, whatever. And it's just a great album, one of my favorite albums, and I think my favorite one from REM. So yeah. A hat trick. So show a vinyl, CD, and cassette. CD of The Cure with the album called Paris or Paris. Released in 1993. They did a double live album 1992 called Show, and which featured all of the big hits. Now this is more like a fan favorite album, so it has like album tracks that are not necessarily, big hits or big hit singles. Um, and it is a stellar album. Got this on CD when it came out. I wasn't buying vinyl back then in '93. I was only buying CDs, and I managed to score the vinyl version of this album before the prices just completely went ballistic. This is a very, very, very expensive album today. I'm so happy that I got it for a very reasonable price, like I think like $80 or something. This is like several $100s now, I believe. And um, some time ago, sorry, there's some all of my albums got mixed up here. Sorry. Some months ago, I managed to snag the album on cassette as well, which I'm really happy about. So that is my hat trick: The Cure and Paris. An album that starts and ends with the same letter. I picked this one. I had a tough time finding one. And then I looked under F in my collection and found the band The Fall, and they actually have a couple of albums where I don't have all of their albums because they released like 900 albums. But this is one that begins and ends with the same letter. That letter is C because the album is called Cerebral Caustic. The Fall, obviously the brainchild of the late and great Mark E. Smith, British alternative rock band, and they sounded like no other band. This is a 2020 Record Store Day special edition. The original is ridiculously priced. Very happy that they released this. So, The Fall and Cerebral Caustic starts and ends with the same letter. Someone that was born in the same year as me. The year is 1976. I just turned 46 here in December. And someone who also recently turned 46 is this guy here. This is Jonas Bjerre, and he is the lead singer of Danish band Mew. This is their album Mew and the Glass-Handed Kites, a music on vinyl reissue for Record Store Day. Originally, the album is from 2005. This was released in 2016. A stellar album, arguably Mew's best album. But Jonas Bjerre from Mew is born in the same year as I was. Next question is the most listened to album of last year. I think maybe the one that I listened to the most was Stromae, which I already showed. But another album that I listened to a lot last year uh, was Harry Styles and his album Harry's House. Um, I've been watching some vinyl tag videos, and a lot of people are showing 70s albums, 80s albums, 90s albums, and a lot of people are showing rock music, rock music, rock music. I'm showing a bit of pop, and I hope that you don't dislike me or the music because of that. This is an amazing album. I really like Harry Styles. The last two albums, or the previous two solo albums he has done, were I think are also great. This is, I think, so far my favorite of his. And yeah, it's a great album. He was supposed to play in Copenhagen last year. Unfortunately, the show was canceled because there was a shooting at a shopping mall very close to the concert venue. So he has still to perform, I think, as a solo artist in Denmark. But Harry's House from Harry Styles is one of the albums that I listened to the most last year. The most listened to artist of 2022 for me. Well, one of them, again, I can't say that this is the number one, but this is one of them at least. Dave Lee, a British producer and DJ. He does disco house. So if you're into electronic music, if you're into house music, uplifting house music with a disco feel, Dave Lee is your guy. He also, for many, many years, did tracks and albums under the alias Joey Negro. Now, that name is not as fitting anymore because the guy is white. and Joe Negro is maybe not a fitting name for a white artist. So he has decided to, at least for this album here, go with his real name, which is Dave Lee. Produced with Love is a double album. This also features a third disc, a 12-inch single with 2 tracks on it. This is a stellar album. Just brilliant, uplifting disco house. Dave Lee, check him out. An Australian band or artist, I picked this guy here. This is Rye X. And his album, also from last year, called Blood Moon. Rye X is, if you will, sort of Bon Iver-ish, from like the first Bon Iver album, Forever Ago. So really soft, uh, indie folk songs, but with added electronic beats. And he sings in a high pitched voice. I also caught him live last year, and it was an amazing concert. This, I believe, is it his fourth solo album? I think it is. Blood Moon is the album, and Rye X. If you're into like gentle, soft, folky indie stuff with some really chilled electronic beats to it, check out Rye X and his album Blood Moon. A surprising um, a surprising purchase of 2022. So I think Rob said something that your friends would be surprised that you bought. My friends would be surprised of nothing that I buy because I have. They all know that I like from everything from classical music to death metal, from jazz to hip hop to rap to pop music to jazz, whatever. But I think that maybe if someone came into my music room here and saw this album here, which is a children's music album, Danish children's music album, from the one called the Lorte Caso, and the Grassroots, which is this children's group, singing group back here, maybe they would say, why would you buy that? Well, first of all, this was expensive because it's a rare album. It's a rare album to find in good condition, and it's an album that everybody wants because it features some really, really cool instrumentation, um, and some songs that could easily fit into any avant-garde French 70s movie. Even though there are kids singing, this musically, this is a very interesting album. And Yeah, so it's children's music, but it's really, really cool. An artist or band that I'm complete on. Now, there are, without bragging, there are a lot of artists or bands that I am complete on, but I'm gonna pick this band because, well, it's only 4 albums, and I've only picked the studio albums. They have released some live albums as well. I don't consider them to that you have to buy them to be complete. So 4 studio albums, and because one of them, which is the first one, their debut album, just came into my possession 2 days ago. British punk band Idols. This is their first album, Brutalism, from 2017, which they followed up, I think, the year after with this album called Joy as an Act of Resistance. Um, oh man, yeah. British punk at its very, very best. This features Danny Nadelko, which you may have heard. The first one features Well Done, which is also a hit for them. Then they did this album in 2021, maybe. Ultra Mono, another great album. Gatefold-ish, this cover here. Yeah, Ultra Mono. And then they released this, yeah, 17, 18, 20, and this one was from 2021. Crawler, which is their fourth and most recent album. Oh man, this is, I think of all of the albums, this is my favorite one so far, and that's really good going for a band that's released 4 albums, and their fourth one is the best one, in my opinion. I've seen them live twice. I saw them last year at the Roskilde Festival in Denmark. They were amazing. The tent was just buzzing, and the crowd was moving throughout the entire concert. There's a concert video actually on YouTube from someone who filmed the entire concert on his cell phone, and he moves back and forth into the crowd. Sometimes you can't even hear the music, but you can see, bodies just colliding. and crashing into each other, and people just having a phenomenal time. Idols, if you like punk music, check them out. A great run of 3 albums. Actually, this is 2 albums and an EP, but I hope that is okay with you. So, Canadian post-rock band Godspeed You Black Emperor. This is their first album. F sharp, A sharp, Infinity. Came out in 1997, I believe. Um, uh, Man, this album, oh yeah, so good. And they managed to follow it up by an EP of 2 songs called, the EP is Slow Ride for New Zero Canada. Features the tracks Moya and BBF3, I think the Blaze Bailey Finnegan the third, I think. The second song is called 2 amazing tracks. And then they followed that up with, I think, my favorite album of theirs, which is this one, Lift Your Skinny Fists Like Antennas to Heaven. Um, Double album released in 2000, in the year 2000, or was it 1999? I don't recall now. But one of my favorite albums of all time, and that was Godspeed You Black Emperor. And this is Lift Your Skinny Fists Like Antennas to Heaven. 80s soundtrack. So I'm cheating a bit because none of the music on this soundtrack here is from the 80s. I don't have many soundtracks, and the ones that I have from the 80s are like La Bamba and Footloose, and I won't show that. But this movie was released in the 80s, and that is Christiane F. Wir Kinder vom Bahnhof Zoo. Now, this of course features music from David Bowie from his Berlin years. So all of the music on here is from 76 through to 79. So like I said, none of the music on here is from the 80s. The movie was 81, and it's a great movie. If you've seen the movie, you know that the movie is about Christiane, who goes to Berlin and who ends up with sort of the wrong crowd, gets addicted to heroin, and she loses a couple of friends to drugs, and then she manages to, in the end, to get out of the whole drug scene. It's based on a book written by someone called Christiane, and it's basically her life story of her youth, at least. And this movie features some very, very graphic scenes of people shooting heroin, and some even more graphic scenes about people doing like a cold turkey, and basically vomiting nonstop for hours. Obviously, the movie doesn't go on for hours, but this has some very graphic scenes of people not feeling too well. This movie was standard in Danish schools in the 80s to make us young kids not do drugs. I think I saw this in like the 5th grade or 6th grade, and I knew right away that I wouldn't be doing drugs because of this film here. So, an amazing soundtrack, an amazing film, and thank you for showing this to me so that I never did drugs. Next question, 14. We have lost them in 2022. Man, there's so many artists and musicians that I love that passed away in 2022. The one that probably comes the closest to my heart was Mimi Parker, who is here behind the drum kit in the band Low. This is their album Come On. By no means their best album, but it features a picture of Mimi. She lost her battle to cancer. She'd been fighting cancer for several years, I think. And I was just absolutely gutted and devastated when I heard that she was no longer with us. But yeah, so many people: Fred White from Earth, Wind and Fire, Taylor Hawkins, Gal Costa, Brazilian singer, so many. But Mimi Parker, yeah, that was heartbreaking. Question 15: disappointing purchase in 2022. Sylvia Vrethammar, a Swedish Schlager pop singer. Her 1970 something album Tycker om dig, which means I like you. This is a great album, so it's not disappointing because the music sucks, but because this record here, even though it's used and it looks somewhat used, But I spent around $13-14 for this, and it's someone has just played this with Fred Flintstone's turntable with like the bird with the beak, and completely ruined the record. So when I came home and listened to this, I just took it off the turntable within a couple of minutes because there's no way that I can listen to this. Um, the album is great, the record is shite. So that was disappointing for me. I'm gonna have to look for another copy of this one. So a non-vinyl purchase from last year is this one. What is this? Is it a cassette? No. These are music conversation cards. So it's like a deck of cards. But on here, on these cards here are questions for people to sit around a table, around a fire, or whatever, and have discussions about music. So one of the questions here is, what song do you remember as being one of the first that just knocked you off your feet? And that is a card that you can draw when playing this game. There's no winner of this game. That's a card you can draw, and that's a question you can ask to the people around you, and then people just simply sit and talk about music. And that's what these are. These are conversation cards. And the company behind this deck of cards here have done like 10 or 12 different decks of conversation cards. This is the only one about music. They've done about like dilemmas. How would you react in a certain situation? But this one is about music, and I instantly bought it because I thought that it would be interesting to sit and talk about music with other people. So, for example, there's a question here: which piece of lyric has is like extra important to you, or spoke to you in a special way? So, like I said, this is just for people to sit around a table or whatever and talk about music. What music do you listen to when you're angry? Discuss. Great, 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 great stuff. Somehow my videos also always tend to go very, very long. I'm gonna try and do these last ones a bit faster. I found a grail. I did. Well, yeah, I found a grail. This is George Bain and his album called Forza Bruta. Um, all of George Bain's albums are grails. This one I've never ever seen before. Originally released in 1970, this is a 1976 German pressing, and it's absolutely stellar. It's like near mint. The cover has a few punch holes, but that's it. A terrific album from one of my favorite artists, and definitely a grail. It was expensive, but it was a grail. So very happy to get this. Space themed album or album cover. The British electronic dub ambient band project The Orb. This is their album UF Orb, so UFO and then Orb, and there's like a space thingy here. A great seminal ambient dub album from 1992. Um, just absolutely stellar from the beginning to the absolute last note of this one. Yeah, space. Ooh. So show some VCLT or a present. Question number 19. I got this one last year from my dear friend Bill from the Vinylverse. This is Patricia Brennan and the album called Makishti. Makishti. And she is a vibraphonist. That's a difficult name. That's a difficult word to say if you're a non English speaking person. Mexican born vibraphonist, vibraphonist, Mexican born vibraphonist, marimbist, improviser, and composer Patricia Brennan, Latin percussion, and so on and so on. Great album. Interesting sounds, interesting structures, interesting melodies. Double album. Absolutely brilliant gift from my friend Bill, Vinylverse. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, check it out. And finally, we're up to the last question. Show an album released in 1973. This is a reissue, but still originally from 1973. Donny Hathaway, Extension of a Man. Brilliant soul, gospel at times, but really, really, really amazing soul album. Soul, funk, R&B album. I saw this recommended on Amoeba's What's in My Bag series on YouTube. and absolutely had to get it. Yeah, check it out if you're into 70s soul, Donny Hathaway. And that's it. Vinyl Tag 2023 in the bag. Hopefully I'll be up to doing some more videos soon to come. And until then, take care. Bye-bye.